Yeah, so good morning, everyone. Yeah, good morning. So today we talk about the four phases of the market cycle, right? The four phases of market cycle. Once again, I'm Investor Ben. Yeah, so the four phases of the market cycle, right? Four phases of the market cycle. Okay, so let me do this, the market cycles, right? Yeah, four phases of the market cycles. Okay, so when we talk about market cycles, right? When we talk about market cycle, it has to do with how price tends to move, right? Just like how we have economic cycle at a time when price of an economy tends to go up, when it tends to come down, when it tends to range, maybe things aren't going well in the economy, right? And when it spikes up, when it drops. Yeah, so the same way we have the same thing when it comes to crypto markets, stock markets, or even forex markets, right? Yeah, so all of these terms also applies in these financial markets, right? Now, so when we talk about the four phases of the market cycle, we are trying to look out for the phases at which everything in the market occurs, right? And that will bring me to talking about the first phase, which is the accumulation phase, right? The accumulation phase, the accumulation phase, right? Then you have the second, right, which is the markup phase, the markup phase. You have the third, which is the distribution phase, distribution phase. And we have the fourth, which is the markdown, the mark, the markdown phase. So now we have the accumulation phase, the markup phase, the distribution phase, and the market and the markdown phase. Now these are the phases that oversees everything you are seeing in the market. These phases oversees everything you are going to see in the market, right? Be it in an uptrend, a downtrend, a range bond market, a choppy market, or a consolidation market. These phases governs everything you will be seeing in the market, right? Now you might have heard of the word Wyckoff, right? So you may call this thing this way. Some persons use these terms for these markings, right? Let's type here. Trying to get you guys. You might have heard of Wyckoff pattern, Wyckoff strategy, or Wyckoff trading strategy, things that has to do with Wyckoff, right? Yeah. So he was the person that invented this market phases that we are currently trying to use. All these market phases you are seeing, right? It was the person that brought about the market phases, telling you about how market moves in phase, right? Let me try to bolding this thing. So this is actually Wyckoff market cycle, right? Let me get this thing here. market cycle, right? So he brought about this definition, these phases of the market, that you have your accumulation phase, the markup phase, distribution phase, and the markdown. These phases that oversees the market movements, right? Then some persons may call this phase, either they choose to call this phase this way, or they can call it this one. Let me get this to be black. Or they can call it accumulation, advancing, distribution, and declining, right? You have your accumulation phase, advancing, advancing, distribution, and declining, distribution, and declining, declining, right? So these same phases here that you have here, some persons may refer to them as this. While I'm showing these two examples, so note when you see someone say something like advancing, you will get confused, right? They are all the same thing. So it depends on people's word, how they understood these terms, right? Yeah, so this should be 16 and it shouldn't be bold, 14 and not bold. So you can either call this thing the accumulation phase, right? It's same thing, or this one, you can call it this one, right? Then I'm trying to make everything detailed for you. Or the markup phase, which you can call advancing. The markup phase, which you can call advancing, right? Or the distribution phase, which is also distribution in this one, right? Or the declining phase, just like the way it goes, declining, when something is, plummeting in price and something is falling down or going to the downward direction, right here. So the declining the declining phase, that one goes with the markdown phase. So either of the terms, you can use either of the terms. But then if you're trying to use a term from here, use it completely like this. Don't miss the phases. Let's say you say accumulation, then instead of saying advancing, right, you said markup phase. And instead of saying decline, like don't miss these words. If you want to call it this one, choose just this one that you're calling it, right? If you want to call it this one, choose just this one. But then anyone you call it, it's the same thing. So you can either choose to call it this one or this one. Yeah, so now let's get to explaining how this thing looks like in your charts, right? When we talk about accumulation phase, when we talk about accumulation phase, right? Where should I put this? Okay, let me put this there. So when we talk about this accumulation phase, let me represent them using buses, right? Using buses. So let me represent them using buses, right? So and continuously, right? So let me just stop here. Let me just stop here. So now this boss is here. This is the first phase, right? This is the first phase here. And this first phase here, it's the accumulation phase, right? Accumulation phase. This first phase here is the accumulation phase, right? The second phase here is the markup phase, right? Oh, this one doesn't have text, so let's write here. This phase you're seeing here, right? This phase you're seeing here is the markup phase. Markup phase. So this is the markup phase, right? This one you're seeing here is distribution phase. The distribution phase. The distribution phase, right? Here is the distribution and boarding. So this is the distribution phase, and here is the markdown phase, right? The markdown phase. Here is the markdown phase. So you could see that these phases of the market now indicates when we have a range bond market. Okay, let me cancel this, and we are back to accumulation. It's just four phases, so I will keep this one here this way. So you could see these four phases of the market, right? Now, this accumulation, when we talk of accumulation, you see price ranging, right? It occurs majorly when you see price in a range bond market when there are buyers and sellers, but then no one has much momentum over the other, resulting to a range in price, a long-term period of range, right? And whenever we loses this range, and it goes to the upside. That is the markup phase. Whenever we loses this range to the upside, right, that is the markup phase. Now, in this markup phase now, there is something common there. And the thing common in this markup phase is that there are buyers at this point. Like in this accumulation phase, both buyers and sellers were present. But then when price was ranging, as a result in the range, no one has much momentum over the other. Remember, if price is ranging and sellers have much momentum more than the buyers, it will drop, right? And if price is ranging and buyers have much buying momentum more than the sellers, it will pump, right? Yeah. So with that being said, during the accumulation phase, there are both buyers and sellers present, but then their power of which has the most activities is neutral, right? No one is winning against another, right? Yeah. So the winning, should I say, the winning momentum between buyers and sellers here is neutral, and still activities of trading is going on, right? So whenever price loses this range, from just a consolidation, right, to the upside, it's called the markup phase, right? Remember, number two is the markup phase or the advancing. So you can call it the markup phase. So now, as price has lost this accumulation at this point, this range, all this range that was happening here, we have the markup phase. In the markup phase now, buyers are present, right? You have people buying into the market. Let's say when we have the bull run, remember this market cycle that I'm discussing. When we have the bull run, right? Whenever we have the bull run, we are in the markup phase, right? Or whenever we have an uptrend, we are in the markup phase where there are lots of buyers, lots of buying activities present, right? Yeah, now, remember, market cycle is being governed by three phases, right? These three phases: accumulation phase, the markup phase, distribution phase, and the markdown phase oversees everything in the market. So as we are having these buy momentums, right? Buys won't last forever. We need to complete the remaining two cycles of the market, which is the distribution and the markdown, right? So at the time, these buys will be losing momentum in the market. Like there won't be enough buy momentum, and then price will start getting stagnant, right? Price will start getting stagnant. It will start consolidating once more, like it has been, like it was doing here, right? Now the difference between this, price will start consolidating here, we start consolidating at this point. Now the difference between this the difference between this accumulation and distribution is that accumulation leads to an uptrend, it sponsors an uptrend, right? While distribution sponsors a downtrend. Let me get this. Oh wow. So this why distribution sponsors a downtrend, right? So now price is ranging at this point, and as price is ranging, the next thing that happens, sellers take over. And once sellers take over and we break down, that is what we call, as long as sellers have lose this range, a distribution, this is a point of distribution where we are at the peak of a buy order, right? These sellers here were able to absorb all the buy orders. You remember, we are coming from an uptrend or from a markup phase, and the sellers here we are absorbing all the buys, right? And at this point, people who bought from this cycle of the market are going to take profits at the distribution phase. When this distribution phase comes in, people will start taking profits, and it's as a result of the profits they took. Maybe they bought at accumulation and during the markup phase they were in profits, right? So now they will tend to take profits, and as a result of taking profits, we will have some distributions. And when these profits are being taken, like when there are lots of sell orders as a result in profit orders being taken, right? Then we have a sell force, and this sell force relates to markdown. We start selling to the downside, right? Yeah, so and if you look at the market now, we have the uptrend, the downtrend, and we have a point where market is consolidating. The same thing repeats. After the markdown, we may have an accumulation, markup, distribution, markdown, accumulation. So these are the four phases of the markets, right? So now coming over to a structural chart. Coming over to a structural chart, right? So let's do something, right? So so now let's look at this chart formation, right? Let's look at this chart formation here before we had this huge sale that occurred, right? When we look at these things I've marked now, it shows the three phases, the four phases of the market, right? At this point was the point of accumulation, right? Here now was the point of expansion. Sorry, and what do they call it again? The markup phase, right? This was the markup phase you had, the markup phase, right? And after this markup phase, we had a distribution phase here. We had a distribution phase here. We had a distribution phase here. And after this distribution, we had a markdown. We had a markdown phase, right? So now these are the four phases of the market: your accumulation, the markup phase, distribution, and the markdown phase, right? Now, this distribution, sorry, this markup phase and this markup phase and sorry, this accumulation and distributions, they are what we call reaccumulation. Remember, this is accumulation, right? These let me get those writings. Okay, let me just leave this here. So this is your accumulation phase. Yeah. Okay, so this is the accumulation phase, which we have here, right? This is the distribution phase. the distribution phase, right? The distribution phase, this is your markdown, right? This is your markdown phase. This is your markdown phase, right? Or you can call it just markdown, right? It's your markdown phase at this point, and this is your markup phase. This is the markup phase, right here. So this is how the chart goes in. If I'm trying to do this thing here now, we couldn't see much buy momentum, but as long as we lose this range, we could see some buy momentum. Okay, let's say we are trying to find an entry in an accumulation, right? Which is not what we are looking at, but then you find the entry at this point, and this is a minor change of character inside of it, right? We went to the upside, we started going, and before we reversed, we took out all these highs here. We took out all these highs, right? Created a change of character, created a change of character instead of this accumulation, instead of this distribution phase, and then we sold to the downside, right? We sold to the downside. We sold to the downside. So we took our liquidity from here, previous day low, anything, then did change of character at that point. Then we started reversing to the downside. So these are the phases of the market. Now let's try to look at the charts, what we have in the charts. Okay, I wanted to say something on accumulation, reaccumulation and redistribution, right? Yeah, so let me say what I wanted to say. Now, when you see things like this, things like okay, let me mark it again. Okay, another structure, right? And you see things like this, right? Now, now this is your accumulation, right? This is your accumulation phase, right? This one now will be your reaccumulation, right? Now the reason this is your main accumulation, the one that sponsored the entire bullish move at this point, the one that sponsored this markup phase, right? This one that sponsored this markup phase at this point, right? The one that sponsored this markup phase. Let me try to get all of these things together with me. Clone. Oh, all these are already okay. Let me get this clone too. Let me get all of this cloned. And lastly, didn't I write things on this thing? Oh wow, I didn't answer. So here is for you. Here is for you. Here is for you. The markdown phase, right? And the markup phase. Okay, I think that is all. Okay, now so this is your markup phase, right? Your markdown phase, your entire markdown phase, right? And your markup phase. Now, in these phases, this is your accumulation, right? To get all of these things. Yep. So in this accumulation now, after this phase accumulation happened, right? We had our move to the upside. That is the markup phase, and now we reaccumulated again. That sponsored another move to the upside. Now you term this one as reaccumulation, right? You term this one as reaccumulation. Reaccumulation. Let me write it in a little later, right? So reaccumulation. So here now becomes reaccumulation, and we have this one again, distribution, and we had another distribution here. This one now will be redistribution, right? Yeah, so another distribution before we sold entirely to the downside. Redistribution, right? Here becomes your redistribution. Then remember all these phases here, from here to here, from here like this. Remember, from here like this is actually the markup phase. But then the process of the markup phase, it won't just be a one candlestick that we do the markup, right? We also have some ranges there. And all of these ranges that will lead to a higher push in price will be the accumulation, right? All of these ranges. Then for these ranges that will sponsor another downtrend will be the redistribution. While here remains the main point of the distribution. Why here remains the point at which price distributed firstly, right? Here sponsor the main sales in the market. Here, price tends to range to gather more sell volume by absorbing buyers or by buyers selling their orders, right? Maybe let's say those that wanted to people will take profit at this point for market to sell, right? In the process of selling, people will be in loss because some persons will be buying at this top while some will be selling at this top, right? And in that process, some will be in loss, expecting market to pump again while we keep selling. Let's say they try to DCA their bags, and in the process, they tend to cause some little pump in the market, and the pump just go up, down, up, down, up, down. Then sellers will keep on selling. People will keep on selling at this point until they absorb all the buyers, and then we have our complete sales, right? So you could see how these phases are well detailed for you. So now let's take a look at this phase as I've marked here, right? Come back again, come back again to this structure, right? To this structure. Why we keep having our break of market structure? You see everything here. I try to make it to look like a real chart. So your break of market structure remains here. And this is an uptrend right here. So this is the phases of the market, the phases of the market. So now let's look at the live charts. The live charts. I'll use TLM. I'll just do a one-time example, right? Because there are lots of examples you can do from your own end and see it. I've explained this in very much detailed. Now let's picture this trend here. Let's picture this trend here. Let me turn off this fucking alarm. Yeah, this trend here now, right? Now we didn't have much accumulations. We didn't have much accumulations, but then you could see the markup phase, right? Remember when it comes to the charts, you don't expect the charts to be very, very fine like the drawings, right? You see the markup phase, and this markup phase led to some kind of distribution. And after this distribution, what do we have? We had our markdown phase, markdown phase, right? So now we had an accumulation at this point, a minor accumulation at this point, right? We had our markup phase, distribution, then markdown, right? So just like a minor chart setup. It may not be that fine. Oh my god, where is that thing? Okay, let me use the peak of this thing to go. So now here is the accumulation phase, right? Here is the accumulation phase where price you accumulate. Let's say there are no range buys at this point. There are no buyers and sellers much active at this point. So it was ranging, price was accumulating. And when we lost this range, right, we went to the upside. We teleported to the upside. We teleported to the upside, right? Which is the markup phase. And after the markup phase, what happened? We had to drop, right? And we had a distribution at this point. And after the distribution formed, what the price did, we had a markdown phase. We had a markdown phase, and that is the phase of people taking profits, people taking profit at distribution and then leading to the markdown. Now, these phases you are seeing here can also be called reaccumulations, right? All these phases you are seeing here, they can be called reaccumulations because after they accumulated here again, we had another impulsive move, right? And these minor phases you are seeing here, this minor phase here, you can see here, you can call these ones your redistribution. This minor phase you're seeing here, right here. So, but then let me get this off. But then this is your simple live chat illustration on accumulation, markup phase, distribution, and markdown phase. Yeah, so I try to get everything well detailed so you won't ever get confused. Yeah, because along the I didn't learn that pretty much nicer way. Yeah, so and it will be my duty to not make you learn the same hard way. Yeah, so let's look at this minor accumulation at this point, right? We had our markup phase at this point. We had our markup phase at this point, right? Here we have distribution, and then we had our markdown phase, right? We had our markdown phase. So accumulation, markup, distribution, and markdown, right? Markup, distribution, and markdown. So phases of the market, phases that the market oversees. These are the phases that oversees the market, right? For market to pump, we might have maybe accumulated at a certain point, right? So yeah, I should be ending this here. I should be ending this. Or let me see if I can get many more examples so that I'll be ending this together with the Zoom. So let's see which pair can I add? Like which pair should I suggest? Let's look at what we have on the watch list here. Okay, I need a pair that is which pair should I add? Let's try something on mana or sand. I don't know. Sand, anyone, all of these game tokens, sand, USC, B. Okay, sand boss. Let's try something on sand boss. Let me look out for the entire structure so that we can see the bigger view of everything. Wow. With that not being said, let me see how many percent this token did from June 21st to 21 to 25th of November. 6,600. Wow, damn. Okay, so let me just use this phase that I'm seeing here now. Let me just use this entire phase here now. Let's call this our accumulation, right? This is the accumulation phase, right? The accumulation phase. Here is your markup phase, right? Your markup phase. Here at this point is the distribution phase, right? The distribution phase in your chart. Here at this point is the distribution phase, and here like this is your mark down phase, right? So, and this is it for the market cycles. This is it for the market cycles. So you've seen that everything here, everything, it's the same thing, like the same thing, delete. So you could see these phases now. Everything here is same thing that I've just said, and they are all well detailed. Now these smaller structures, now look at these smaller structures, all these ones, you can call them reaccumulations, right? You can call them reaccumulations because the more they keep, the more price forms those range, then price will break out of the range and push higher, right? And all of these minor lows here, all of these are minor lows here, right? All of these minor ranges here, you can call them redistribution, right? Redistribution. So these are price moves. These are price move. Yeah, these are price move. The phases of the market: accumulation, markup, then distribution, markdown phase. Yeah, so yeah, trust you guys will enjoy this section, and backtest, go to your chart, mark out the phases of the market, then send to me in the group, right? Like 2 or 3 assignments that you can do, that you should be able to do, right? Yeah, so I'm not gonna force any of you to do the assignment. So you should do the assignment then say, let me evaluate them. So yeah, that is it on accumulation, markup, distribution, and markdown phase. Yeah, sending this ASAP to the group. Yeah, that brings us to the end of this wonderful section, right? Yeah, so put in the work.